The availability and affordability of housing is a challenge facing cities and towns across Canada, certainly in BC and in Port Alberni. That challenge is being taken up today at a community housing forum, an event hosted by the Alberni Valley Community Stakeholders Initiative to End Homelessness and sponsored by BC Healthy Communities and the Alberni Clayoquot Health Network.
We've gathered together many individuals around our community and even outside of our community. And it's so we can really come together, find solutions, create ideas, and that way we can all, it's one issue, it's all our issue. And instead of fighting for our own piece of pie, it's let's share the pie. We all can benefit from it. So we're just, instead of fighting each other, let's fight together and try and find solutions for this housing crisis in the Alberni Valley and on the West Coast.
Now, you talked about all the different groups that are here today. Can you name a few of them, and are they all service providers, or are there user groups here today as well?
There's most of them are in the housing community, whether they're investors, developers, real estate agents. There's many organizations. We also have many First Nation tribes here. We have some from Huwayet, and Yale First Nation presented today, and many more. There's just too many that for me to name.
One of those groups is the Port Alberni Shelter Society, an organization that works to end homelessness every day.
Whether it's to do with low barrier clients who simply don't have a place to live, a safe place, or whether it's to do with young people who are trying to get a start and want to purchase their first home, or whether it's to do with seniors who need to move on and can't afford their home in now and need some affordable housing, possibly with some ports to move into. So we're here, with the Shelter Society, working with a number of groups, great groups that we have in the valley here, to try and achieve some of those goals around that area.
And John, I know we've talked many times over the years about different issues in the Alberni Valley. There often seems to be a sense here that this isn't our problem. This is somebody else's problem. This is perhaps Vancouver's problem that has been shipped here. But in fact, homelessness, lack of affordable housing is a homegrown problem. It is ours.
Yeah, and the fact is too, Nancy, we're in Canada, right? This is Canada, this is our country. We're all Canadians. It's all our one big family. The people that are here in the valley that have housing issues are our people, and it's up to us to look after them. Now, we look to the federal government and the provincial government to assist us in those, but really the solution is for us to work in groups like this and work together and stay a positive focus on getting some achievable goals happening in this area.
And towards that end, this forum has included presenters with concepts and ideas that are working in other communities.
I'm part of a team. We're initiating an off-reserve housing project. Yale is near Hope, BC, and it's still fairly rural, so when we bring people home, they typically don't have a vehicle, they may or may not have a driver's license, so there's a lot of barriers. Even if we get new housing on our reserve lands, it doesn't guarantee success for our new residents coming home. A lot of our reserve is, our members are off-reserve, Vancouver area. It's a hard transition to go from an urban environment back to rural, and one of our big mandates, as directed by the community, is to create those opportunities to bring people back home. Housing is a big part of that. Employment is a big part of that. Having access to all the amenities required to be successful is a huge part of that. So at Yale, we really think outside the reserve box, and we're just charging ahead with what we feel fills the need for both our community and the surrounding community. So this will be available to First Nations all throughout the area. And because Hope is the business center, we really feel it makes the most sense to put something on the ground there, and with the long-term intent of getting them out of the city, maybe back to their reserve lands, but it's a multi-step process.
Okay, you talk about Hope being the hub. Port Alberni is certainly a hub for a lot of different First Nations here, so there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, very similar. I actually, when I was driving in here today, I thought, geez, it reminds me a lot of home, and especially the fact that in a sort of rural economy like this, the partnerships are key. So you can't really, you have to work together. But First Nations and and neighboring First Nations, which can be a challenge, but it's really important to get things moving forward that we all work together.
One of the interesting things about this forum is that even though everyone is in the same room to talk about housing challenges, the issue can look very different in different communities.
Most of our housing issues, the ones that predominate in our conversations in Tofino and Ucluelet, are about housing employees, seasonal staff, and people who have recently moved to the West Coast that are looking to make the West Coast their home, and they're employees of some of the larger resorts or restaurants or other employers in the tourism sector.
Are a lot of those spaces that might have otherwise been available turning into Airbnbs? Am I missing the point here?
No, I don't think you're missing the point. In Tofino, we have a very balanced set of regulations that enable people to do Airbnb or vacation rental or nightly rentals in their homes. But we have seen an impact on long-term rental housing, and it's on one hand something that supports people. It gives them an income to provide for their mortgage, but on the other hand, it can result in less long-term housing being available. And so that, combined with a lack of new building in the recent decade or so, means that we're really tight on housing.
Really tight, and that's an incredible juggling act because people do need that income. It is a viable income, but people need housing.
They do. It is a juggling act, and there are conversations taking place in the community all over the place about how to better enforce all the regulations that are in place, how to work with other partners, employers, to build some new rental housing or new housing for people to move into, and how to get people out of, frankly, living in tents and Airstream trailers and RVs and into adequate housing.
So many different groups and individuals contributing, so many great ideas. Kate Walton, what happens next?
Well, we have a meeting about this forum and we sort of summarize all the ideas. You know, one of the steps might be going to council for a council meeting and saying, okay, this is what came about. How are we going to do this? And then also AVCSI, we are meeting with BC Housing next week, and that'll be another forum for us to sort of draw up questions so we can get the answers. And again, start small, think big, and we'll get there eventually.